Welcome students to this lecture of English. This is Gitanjali M. Singh, Associate Professor of English at Government PG College for Women, Bhodia Kheda, Fatehbad. In this lecture today, we shall be discussing the poem Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. This poem has been anthologized in the book Fragrances, a textbook of poetry and language skills, edited by Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Dr. Sunita Siroha, and Dr. Sukhvinder Singh Rehel. This textbook is prescribed for the students of BA Part 2 in Kurukshetra University, Kurukshetra, MDU, and Chaudhary Devilal University, Sirsa. Students, please also note that this lecture will be followed by comprehension questions which you have to prepare in form of assignments and submit them to your respective teachers. All right? Now let's begin our poem Grecian Urn with introduction to John Keats and his poetry. John Keats was born on 31st October 1795. He was not only the last but most perfect of the Romantic poets. Keats lived apart from men and from all political measures, worshipping beauty like a devotee. He was perfectly satisfied to write about what was there in his own heart or to reflect some splendor of the natural world as he saw it to be. From his very childhood, John Keats showed an impulsive and excitable behavior. Very early, he lost his mother, which became a source of persistent agony and grief. He experienced weakness of body and the strength of spirit simultaneously in his life. That means he was a weakling at times, but he lived and died in a manner that showed his strength of nerves. At school, he would carry off all the first prizes in literature, but he also sacrificed amusements and exercises for them. Even on his holidays, he would remain at home and translate Virgil. Even when he was forced to walk in the garden, he would be seen with a book in his hand. This trait of his personality is reflected in his poetry. He could never imagine meeting without partings, joys without sorrows, love without its accompanying pain. When he experienced ease in life, he recalled at once how comfortable death could be. For this reason, he liked to come back to the world of sorrow, lest he should be deceived by happiness. Similarly, for him, autumn is to be kept in mind along with spring and summer. The world of personal emotions was more familiar to him than that of fancy, which he knew can cheat mankind so well. At a very young age, Keats died on February 23, 1821. John Keats is particularly famous as master of odes. His poetry is replete with sensuousness. That is, his poetry makes us see, hear, smell, taste, and touch the objects that he describes in his poems. Apart from Grecian Urn that we are to read today, a few of his other odes are Ode to Nightingale, Ode to Psyche, Ode to Autumn, Ode on Melancholy, Ode on Indolence, Ode to Fancy, Ode to Poets, etc. etc. Now let's come to our ode, Grecian Urn. This ode was written in the spring of 1819. Now, what is an urn? Students, you should know that urn is a vase for the preservation of the ashes of the dead. Okay. Now the poet sees a Grecian urn and the human forms depicted thereon. He is filled with a sense of wonder and he starts speculating what might be the theme of the urn. On it, there are men who can be mistaken for gods. Then there are blushful maidens struggling to escape their lovers. Then there are pipers or musicians who are playing on untiringly. So these lifelike figures strike the poet with astonishment. These naturally make the poet conscious of the superiority of art over nature. Now we have five stanzas in the poem, and let us take up the text of the poem stanza wise. This is the first stanza. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme? What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals, or of both? In Tempe or the dales of Arcady, what men or gods are these? What maiden's sloth, what mad pursuit, what struggle to escape, what pipes and timbrels, what wild ecstasy? There are a few difficult words in this poem. I will help you out with them. The word unravished, it means untempered or still intact. Foster child, it means an adopted child. Sylvan historian, this means the chronicler of pastoral life. Dales of Arcady, it is a valley of Arcadia. According to the poet, this Grecian urn is a relic of antiquity and a chronicler of ancient Greek pastoral life. The poet addresses it and asks the urn what is the legend which is carved on its sides. Keats contemplates with wonder the long duration of urn on this earth. It is wedded to quietness and it stands silent through the slow march of time as if it were the adopted child of time. Then the poet sees the scene depicted on the urn and feels the charm of pastoral story. It seems to him that sculpture can express a story of rural life much better than poetry. Then he inquires about the legend in the rural surroundings. Is it a story of gods who frequent the valley of Temple, or is it about pastoral life in Arcady? He is struck with wonder at the vital figures of men and maiden, of pipes and trees represented on the urn. He feels all their abandoned joy. Another stanza, stanza 2. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, your soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. For ever wilt thou love, and she be fair. In these lines, Keats asserts the superiority of imagination over reality. On Grecian Urn, the poet sees figure of a piper playing on his instrument. He cannot hear the music made by this musician, but he can imagine it. However great the pleasure of the senses may be, but those of imagination are still greater. The unheard music is far sweeter than the music heard by the mortal ears. Here, Keats affirms the power of imagination to create and to enjoy. This surpasses the music heard in reality. Imagination has ample scope for divine enjoyment of music. So the poet asks the piper to play on. Then he addresses to a young lover who is pursuing his beloved and is almost at the point of attaining her. Yet he should not regret her escape because his beloved will always be in front of him, and his love and her beauty cannot vanish. For Keats, the supreme tragedy of life was the instability of beauty, joy, and love. Stanza 3. Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu, and happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. This passage reveals Keats's keen appreciation for the permanence of art, which is contrasted with the transitoriness of human life. The loveliness and freshness of nature attains permanence in its art form, and this is not possible in real life. The poet contemplates with joy the happiness of trees that can never shed their leaves. So there will be spring season always. He congratulates the happy musician who sings untiringly forever and ever. Even more happy is the lover represented on the urn. The love of the bold lover never actually materializes, but he is always in a mood of expectancy. And students, you must have felt this in your life also, that expectancy is more delightful than fruition. Is it not? Everything in this picture depicts a love which is higher than human love in real life. Human passions on this earth leave behind a heart full of sorrow and worries. This further leads to physical agony. Hence, sculptured love is above all earthly passions. I hope you get this. Now, stanza 4. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadest thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garland dressed? What little town by river or sea shore or mountain built with peaceful citadel is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And little town, thy streets for evermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can ever return. This stanza brings to mind the picture of a little town situated by the side of the river or on a seashore. It is also surrounded by mountains. It must have been left by its inhabitants on this morning of worship. The scene of visible sacrifice is vividly impressed. From where did all these people come? It must have been some little town. This little town whose folk have come out on this happy morning will remain empty and silent forever. Not a single soul will return to its streets to tell why it was emptied. That means the inhabitants represented on the urn, who are busy in the ritual of sacrifice, are forever fixed on the urn and will never return to their little town. Stanza 5. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. Here, Keats interprets the lesson taught by Grecian Urn. It can comprehend eternity itself, but our thoughts cannot compass this feeling or idea of eternity awakened by the urn. When the present generation will lose the freshness and vigor of youth with the arrival of old age, the urn will remain amongst the coming generation of men on earth. It will continue to soothe and comfort humanity with its beauty like a friend. It will teach men this supreme lesson that there is nothing real but the beautiful, and nothing beautiful but the real. In this way, the urn will inspire humanity to seek shelter in the ideal eternity of art. We need no more knowledge than the knowledge of identity between what is true and what is beautiful. So, students, the message of the urn is the five pregnant words: beauty is truth, truth, beauty. I hope this attempt of mine helps you with this poem. And now, as I had said earlier, the assignments that you have to prepare and submit them to your teachers. Here are a few questions. I hope you would be doing them. What does the urn symbolize? Question first. What does the urn symbolize? Another question. Explain. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. You have to explain this line from the poem. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Another question. Discuss the development of the theme of transience and permanence in the present poem. Discuss the development of the theme of transience and permanence in the present poem. Hope you would be able to do this assignment after this lecture of mine. Thank you.